this is not necessarily a breakdown of the fixtures that we've got coming up in the Champions League. This is more of a free-for-all expression for us to vent or talk conspiracy or whatever we want, or previous experiences of the Champions League.
I'm pretty confident, actually. I think we'll have a good game. Mainly because Leipzig have lost the manager, they've lost the two best centre-backs, they've lost their best two forwards in recent years. So they really are, not, a team that they were. I think, they lost two of their first three games against lowly German teams. So I'm not, and I think they play Munich this weekend and got
battered 4-1.
Yeah.
They got battered 4-1.
So we really should be looking at a very comfortable win. And to be honest, I think a point Rob made, and I think it's a good one. I don't think first or second makes that much difference in this group. I think City and PSG should be beating Bruges and Leipzig both times, in which case, the games against Paris aren't going to matter that much, other than possibly for confidence or injuries, etc. Because second or first, I don't think is going to make the games too much easier looking at the pots this year.
Do you not think that there's a little bit of a possibility? I mentioned to you a minute ago, do you not think there's a little bit of a possibility that Paris Saint-Germain might mess one of their away fixtures up and sort of mix it up a little bit by accident?
Yeah, I mean, there is the possibility that happens. And, before the last 2 or 3 years, there would have been a very big possibility City would have done that. Although, probably the last 2 or 3 years, we've got out of that habit that certainly the first 4 or 5 years in the Champions League, we lost to some pretty poor teams relative to where we should have been. So, there's possibility we do it too. So, but, I'm hoping a convincing win for us, and probably a convincing win for PSG against Bruges is the best bet. And then, we get ourselves in a position where second, first, it doesn't matter.
I don't know too much about Leipzig this season. I know they're sitting 12th in the Bundesliga at the moment on 4 games, only getting a result in 1 game and losing the other 3. So they're sitting languishing in 12th position. They have lost a few players. They have changed.
I mean,
the system.
Alan, their squad's been kind of pillaged of talent, but
I know he does. Well, that's typical.
Be wary of the injured snake or lion. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Yes, they got battered against Bayern Munich at the weekend.
Yeah,
but I don't know. We're not really a team that underestimates other teams usually. But
and to be honest,
you're not going to want to just get pumped, are they?
Yeah.
So
you only have to worry about an injured snake when it's a cobra or something, not when it's a grass snake.
Yeah, but the thing is the infamous disease going to come out of typical City going to come back to haunt us?
CTID. We've had a lot of medication for CTID over the years, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Usually navigating the Champions League groups themselves are not usually the hardest of tasks for us, are they? But I just think this year it feels different. It feels different because we haven't got a striker, for one, which obviously we've said that a million times now. But just when you look at that fixture list and you see the Chelsea game and the Paris game and the Liverpool game, it just something's got to give almost, in my opinion. So I am a little bit hesitant now.
Personally, I would, play my best side against Chelsea and Liverpool, and then midweek look at who pulls up for Chelsea, not 100%, and probably change 4 or 5 players for Paris, because I think losing to Paris could have absolutely zero consequence if we beat Bruges and Leipzig, whereas losing to Chelsea or Liverpool obviously could have big consequence. So if I was going to throw one of those games, it would be Paris, no question.
I understand that, but I tell you what my thinking is though, Rich. In previous years, I don't know what's wrong with me this season, but in previous years, if we had like an impossible run of fixtures, I'd back us completely. I've backed us before when we've had ridiculous fixtures in the past. I mean, I think you've said it before, Rich, that this is probably in our entire history the hardest run of games that we've ever had.
Probably in a week. I don't reckon
in a week. Yeah.
Two main rivals in the Premier League away. Yeah. And then possibly the best side in Europe, arguably, on paper at least, away from home. I mean, that's, unheard of, I would think, in our history.
the Paris Saint-Germain have really strengthened this year, haven't they? With some very good players and good talents. And we haven't even played our best two players in De Bruyne and Foden yet. And are they going to be match fit? Are they going to be up to speed to play against teams like that? That's questionable. We know our form at Anfield is not great, especially when they've got the Anfield crowded. I think it's imperative that we win on Wednesday night in Manchester against Leipzig. I think we have to get 3 points. We can't have a stutter against them, because if we do draw or lose against those, it puts us under tremendous pressure, big time. To qualify. A tremendous pressure.
Especially because, the reality is, if PSG start well, if we drop points against Leipzig and PSG beat us, PSG could then arguably throw a game themselves later on against, Bruges or Leipzig, and give 3 points up, which could cost us badly. So
as I've said to you both previously, for me, we have to take maximum points off Bruges and Leipzig. We have to. There's no budge room or leeway other than that for me.
I think we get those 12
need
points.
Those 12
don't
points.
Even worry about PSG.
And we'll just have to make sure that. That we have our vaccinations and we don't get COVID.
I mean, obviously,
that's a big one, actually. That is one thing that could happen. That's one thing. I mean, a test match called off last week. It's going to be pretty critical that City are doing the right thing and making sure that we don't risk that, because that could throw. Imagine if you lost 8 players.
Unbelievable!
That Chelsea game last year, if it had been different players, we lost 4, but probably only 1 or 2 would have started. Imagine we, it was Edison and Stefan and Diaz and Laporte or something. I mean,
we've got Scott Carson and Nathan Ake against Paris Saint-Germain. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I hope all the players have had the vaccinations by this point.
I'm sure they have.
Well, if they're sensible and they're not on Facebook and silly little conspiracy groups with no scientific acumen. I would like to say, by the way, about Paris Saint-Germain, I think that if it was an isolated fixture or 2 isolated fixtures against Paris Saint-Germain, I would confidently back us 100%. But I just feel as if that first game against Paris Saint-Germain is going to be the one where we're going to have to perhaps stretch ourselves a little bit too far and overly rotate and essentially, take the loss on that one.
Yeah. I'd probably say I probably agree with you. We just have to make sure we get, the maximum points home and away against Bruges and Leipzig. Both games at home and away, we have to get the 12 points. Then we can just not worry about it, to be honest with you, and just get through to the next stage.
Yeah, I mean, we were conscious. I mean, the thing is, we kind of forget we were absolutely consummate in the Champions League till the final last year. We smashed Paris. We smashed Dortmund. I had maybe a half-hour difficulty against Dortmund. I think we won every knockout game, home and away. And I think we had one draw in the group stage. And that was a dead rubber anyway when we were already guaranteed top spot. So we were consummate until the final. But I do think that for whatever reason, we after Dortmund, or was it just before Dortmund, we played Chelsea and we started rotation. When we started a rotation and we made clear that some players were first team and some players were second team, for whatever reason, we weren't quite as good. Even when the first team was out at that end of that, after that Paris semi-final, we just kind of
that's the very reason I'm writing off the Paris Saint-Germain game coming up. That's the very reason I'm writing it off, because there will have to be some level of rotation in that. I mean, the 6 fixtures, and so we've got 5 more fixtures this month, and then we've got Liverpool in the first fixture of the next month. There's going to have to be over rotation, in my opinion, and I think that's why I'm writing that game off so readily.
Yeah, but I think with the rotation, when it's worked really well, so we rotated a fair bit January, February, and we were winning every game, but we were kind of rotating 1 or 2 players at a time, and I think most of the team felt they were first 11, and we probably had 15 or 16 players who felt they were first 11, and they all missed a few and they played a few. A couple played more than others. But whatever happened at that end of
Is
the
that
season,
when Bernardo was in the team consistently and Kevin De Bruyne wasn't getting a sniff? Because
Bernardo was in the team pretty, apart from at the very beginning of the season, he was in there pretty consistently.
Strange that, isn't it? How we lost so many fixtures.
Bernardo's been in,
and then we put Bernardo in, and we didn't lose one.
Signed, Bernardo's been a regular, but I guess at some point last season in April, 5 or 6 players suddenly felt they were second 11.
Yeah,
11 players felt they were first 11, and everyone's form dipped a bit. And we were not the same team in May in the Champions League final that we'd been in March. So something, whether it was some players unhappy and that's rubbing off in training, whether it was people who were in the team and who were being complacent, but whatever happened, we dropped off and we just weren't the same team.
I thought because of the heavy rotation, we slacked off, and because we got in the habit of not being at the high levels, it reflected on everything. I thought it reflected, we have got better in the Champions League as we've gone along. There's no question about that under Pep. But the Champions League is different than the league. It's all about moments. If you have slack moments in the Champions League, you're out. The perfect example was the home game against Spurs when we won 4-3, but we had 2 howlers at the back in the first 20 minutes. That cost us away goals. And that's another point. From what I believe, the away goal rule is now non-existent this year. So away goals don't count anymore as far as going in a case of it.
That would have paid dividends in previous seasons, Alan, but if we're relying on away goals, then I don't think we deserve it. You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
Yeah, but it will change the mindset. It will change the mindset of teams. When you're going away, trying to get an away goal, and then thinking, right, that's in our favour. Now it doesn't matter. So we've got to just try and win games from the outset. But saying that, so will the other teams. Yeah. They're not going to just play for draws now.
And it's not. Ultimately, it's the best team in the final that wins it. I mean, if you look at last year's Champions League, up to the final, we were better at every stage than Chelsea. But when we came head to head with them, they were better on that day.
Do you think our team frees in the Champions League at certain stages and certain games? I thought we got.
I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of Pep and the team personally. I think that the Lyon game. Surely the Lyon game. Come on, our performances compared to Lyon that season, we should have wiped the floor with them.
Yeah,
and for me, it was a 50-50 between managerial decisions and the playing staff just having brain farts left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
But everyone will always put it down to the same thing: knockout competition. Anything happens over that 90 minutes, but 5 times in a row.
Yeah. It doesn't, but there's interesting
surely
things.
You've got to go about things a different way. I mean, that's the definition of insanity, isn't it? If you keep repeating the same actions and expecting different outcomes, we need to have come. I'm hoping that if we progress out of the group and into the knockouts this season, that there is really something in play. Like, for example, I had a little thought there in my head. I think someone should give Pep a brown envelope now and say, right, write your team for the Champions League final now. Put it in a vault. And then when you have to submit your team to the UEFA for the final, only then open the vault and don't let Pep see it again. That'd be me. That'd be the first thing I'd do as City owners this season. Write your team for the final now, Pep.
Yeah, I agree. If you have the more time he has to think about it, the more he invents things to do.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think for me, the one thing I'd say about Chelsea, and this is why very opposite to Paris. Chelsea are in many ways an anti-team in that Chelsea are brilliant at playing against others' strengths, and I don't think you see Chelsea that often really just go out and go to town like City do on another team. Even under Tuchel, they've not done it that much, but they are very good at negating the other side and playing in a way to stop the other team playing, which is, in many ways, Mourinho was an absolute master of that. So Chelsea's modern history was built on that. Whereas, say, Paris, they did not for 1 second play us thinking about combating City. They think we're PSG. We've got, all these great players. We can play Neymar and Mbappe. We play as we want to. City have to live with that. So City could play their game and even play a bit more on the break and a bit less possession than normal, and we were brilliant. But Chelsea didn't come out and have 25 chances against us. They just came out to frustrate us and stop us playing, and they did it bloody well. So I think there's different reasons we go out. I think Lyon are the Leicester City of France, and they played quite like Leicester City, very similar set up to Leicester, and every so often against Leicester we get absolutely trolleyed by them because we get exposed, and I think Lyon did that. Tottenham annoyed me. Tottenham the away, we were phenomenal team at that time. It really bugged me when we went away and tried to get a 0-0 draw, basically, or get a 1-1 draw, and then that was just that just really was irritating. Monaco, I don't know. I think Monaco were a great side in great form, and they were bloody exciting games. There was some refereeing, it could have gone either way. Perhaps we're a bit naive.
Well, that time, Rich, I didn't think City had a great defence at that period. They didn't have last year we had a good defence, right? Because how many clean sheets did we have in the Champions League last year? We were brilliant. Apart from the final. Yeah, we were very good. So we sorted our defence out. We saw the improvement. We got to the final. We should have won it, but Pep invented things to do which he shouldn't have done, and we all know that.
But still, I think the thing is, and this, I still think it's a bit of a misunderstanding of the Champions League final. 90% of City fans will blame it entirely on that CDM because we conceded a goal. We were totally negated as an attacking force, partly by Kante and partly by, a very, very good Chelsea defensive performance.
I don't think we've progressed as a squad.
Because we got no Sergio, you mean?
Well, let's not just say because we've got no Sergio, because everyone wrote Sergio Aguero off last season anyway. Yeah. Sergio Aguero wasn't really a player last season, was it? Because we haven't got a striker, is what I will say. We found different ways to do things last year, but I just think that there's been plenty of evidence backing my case so far this season. Yes, we've had 2 5-0 wins, but to suggest that the key ingredient, and the key ingredient, I think what you were alluding to with the Chelsea game, we didn't have if we would have had an out-and-out striker, we would have probably pushed them to penalties or extra time at least. I think a lot of people said that the whole decision for the Champions League final was to try and incorporate Raheem Sterling into that team, and I just think we had too many flair players and not enough people just trying to forcefully put the ball at the back of the net.
People who said that about Raz misread that case. We played Sterling because in the 2 games we played Chelsea before that, Reece James spent most of his time in half the pitch. He got behind the defence and he was brilliant. Raheem Sterling, I think, was picked to negate Reece James, and he did, but Reece James negated Raheem Sterling. I mean, they basically took each other out of the game as offensive forces. So I think
I'm not going to disagree with that. It's a valid point.
I think that's Pep's thinking, and it half worked, but it half didn't work because it took away something from their attack, but it also took away something from ours.
Do you two think? I mean, I'm not going to ask you if we can win the Champions League this season because that's almost a pointless question because it is. You need 50% ability and 50% luck. Yeah. But do you think that we're better equipped this season, or do you think that we've progressed? Because, like I said, I don't think we have.
I think we're better equipped because I think the most impressive performances we've had in Europe by an absolute mile were against Dortmund, against Paris. And whatever we think, we've been to a final now. Very few teams, really have won their first Champions League final. Most teams have gone, lost, come back and won on a second or third occasion. So I think there's that. And that's true in a lot of sport, actually, not just football, that you almost have to get there to get the experience to go and win. And I think we played probably our 4. I think that PSG home and away and Dortmund home and away was our peak in Europe since, beating Gornik in the 60s, or 70. So I think we are better placed. As for the squad, I think the squad's much of a muchness. I think Grealish for Aguero or an unfit Aguero is an upgrade. And I think we've got a number of players now who are more embedded in our side in the Premier League. And I think playing for Pep, a lot of players get better every year. But I do worry that, the flip of that is that Fernandinho's a year older. And I don't think this season, I think Rodri's looks a bit bigger and slower. So I don't think
Rodri's a sidestep and not a forward step. But Alan, what about you, pal? What are you saying?
Well, I get your feeling, Rob. I do feel the same. We've got basically the same players as last year with Grealish, who is good at. I think he's good at helping us break down a low block. So when we're playing against teams who sit back on us, he's capable of inventing things to get us through that, which we didn't have last year. I didn't think at all. I think that we are a weakness if we get a fullback injury, especially left fullback. I think we've got a massive problem on that side, because when you play against the better teams in Europe, they will punish us down there if we've got an injury there. I think if we can't sort out the CDM position in January, I think we should be getting a left fullback and a CDM in January. I don't think we're going to get a striker in January, even if we signed Haaland, which is everyone wants. But I don't think Dortmund will qualify in their group. But two, I don't think Dortmund won't allow him to go until the end of the season. There's no reason why we can't sign him.
If his contract says he can go in January if it's paid, there's nothing Dortmund can do.
Really?
If he has got the clause, which some people are saying starts on January the 1st.
Yeah, I believe it's like a 78 million buyout clause on January the 1st.
Then he will go.
So it is a possibility.
January. Because if anyone's going to get him, they're going to sign him in January. Who would risk waiting if you really want him, who would risk waiting till June or July when anything can happen, Yeah,
true.
Financial problems, signing bans. I mean, if we really, really want him and that clause really is Jan 1, we will go for him Jan 1.
I think that City will go through in second spot. That's my prediction. I think we'll beat Leipzig, beat Club Brugge, and in both games. I hope we don't get a draw or a loss on Wednesday. I think that'll be a disaster if that happens. Yeah. I don't fancy us against PSG. I'll be honest with you. I think we might get a result at home, but away from home, I think we'll get a battering. They'll be after revenge as well after last year when we beat them there. But it should be good enough to get us through in second spot. Then it's all, like you say, it's the luck of the draw after that.
Yeah. Do you know what? If it was a knockout game against PSG, I'd fancy us again. I think we're more of a team.
I was going to say the same thing. Strangely, I'd fancy us in a knockout.
So I think we'll lose in Paris.
Because
there'll be no pressure on them, so they won't bottle it. Because PSG, have been very good at bottling it right at the end.
I'd take a quarters. I'd take a quarters or a semi against PSG over a group game. I really would.
I would. Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
We'll have to. We did well against Real Madrid last year, didn't we? Was it last year, the year before?
Year before.
Year before, when we played well, when we were all worried when they went there, they played. And City played really, really well that night, and then they did the same again at home. They battered them in both games, which I thought was a turning point for City fans and the football club, because it gave us, hang on, we can beat one of the big boys here. We've arrived. Yeah. I think that game changed the perception of the club, changed the perception of City, but it also gave the belief to the players that they actually can compete with the elite clubs, which I don't think before that we had that belief.
I don't think there's anyone we fear now. I mean, PSG, we know. I mean, we haven't just beaten them; we've beaten PSG before. So we know PSG. We've beaten Bayern a number of times. I think we now know we don't need to fear Barcelona or Real Madrid.
I think we've got I think we've got a psychological problem with Liverpool away with their fans in the ground. I'll be honest with you. I think if we played Liverpool away, I think there's other factors into it. Last year was different because there was no fans there, so there was no real.
No, I think we do have bogey teams: Wycombe Wanderers, Liverpool. I think we just have to accept that they are problems for us, and Stockport in the league. But illustrious.
Hope we don't ever face Stockport in the Champions League, eh?
Yes, we will.
Yes, we will win it.
I think we'll win it in the next few years.
Yeah, I do.
I think we'll win it again pretty quickly when we've won it. Do I care? I would have, I thought no, but I got really into the Dortmund and Paris games. I started to. I found those all 4 games really good games and really enjoyable. So earlier on, I'd have said no, I don't care as much. But then you realise that actually, it's the one thing City haven't done. So it's the one kind of new, exciting City win that we can actually do. So in that sense, I think it would be a great to win it. But I'm not a big. What I hate about the Champions League is generally I find the group stages pretty tedious. Often the last 16 is pretty tedious. So
maybe this year will be different,
really
Rich, because we've got that Paris Saint-Germain game at the end of the groups. It might actually might hold our interest a bit more this season, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think City as a club and now as a fan, after last year, I embrace what Richard just said about the latter stages of the Champions League last year. I got really into it. The group stages, I could have took it or leave it. I found it quite boring. But when we played PSG and Dortmund, I got really excited. I got to the point where, come on, we need to win this now. We need to take this monkey off our back. That everyone's having a go at us. I'd like to win it on that basis, and not just that. UEFA have done everything and tried everything to kick us out, and are still trying to do it, and are still trying to do it, and now the Premier League are trying to do the same. I think ever since we've had the takeover, we've had every single authority trying to kick us out of whatever it is. So I'd like to win it, shut everybody up. And we can just sit there and go, we don't care. We've won it now. We don't care. We're not bothered. It's the Mickey Mouse Trophy. But I'd like to win it just to shut people up. I think that's the point. And whether we go on about it like Liverpool and Man United do, I don't think the City fans would do. I think I embraced it. I think I agree with you, Rob. I don't think they would do. But we just go, well, yeah, so what? We won it. Throw the trophy away. We don't care. But I want to win it. I want to shut the people up. I really do.